right, shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all for being in this live. Much love to the fam. Y'all hit that like button and the sub button and sub up to the Coma. We up in this thing. Shout out to FanDuel, the official sponsor of the Sports Coma. We in here representing the mighty Who Dat Nation, man. And for you guys, got one of these articles that was released by around the NFL, NFL.com site, talked about a running back, Alvin Kamara, among the notable cuts in terms of Matt Okada's breakdown. That kind of pissed off a lot of the Who Dat Nation. I've ain't seen him in a while get as touched up as this, because obviously this is one of the situations where I don't know how often it is that you get players that are all-time greats. We've seen like Cam Jordan is an all-time great, and this is coming in within the year that you see guys like Drew Brees become a Hall of Famer, like he is official, like a referee with a whistle. He in the hall, inducted into the Hall of Fame, got the gold blazer, you know, all this kind of stuff. Well, that energy is going to permeate for this entire season. Drew reaches the Hall of Fame. This is a big year for the Who Dat Nation. So we have several players currently on the Saints team right now that when the time comes for them to move on to greater things after their football lives is up, we have three players that are all time that's going to go down as some of the best at their position, right? And you talk about Cam Jordan, you talk about Demario Davis, and now you're talking about AK-41, the greatest running back the Saints ever had, has all of the records, loves the city of New Orleans, loves the Saints, his community tied in too. And Alvin Kamara is not just a running back to us. He's one of us. He's the greatest Saint running back there ever was. Better than McAllister, who's my all-time favorite. Better than Dalton Hilliard. Better than Reggie Bush. Better than whoever you want to throw up there. He has all the records. Mark Ingram, how can I forget Mark Ingram? The bowling ball, Mark Ingram. He has all of those records, eclipsed him, has an additional season to add on to all of that. He's just a phenomenal guy. Not many scandals from Alvin Kamara. And like I said, man, when people start talking about cutting the man in his final season, and Alvin's made it a point several times during the season to talk about the fact that he is tied to the team, that he doesn't want to play for anybody, that he wants to just finish out, do what he does, and just go into the sunset. So this is one of the articles that we're talking about here, fam, that we'll go over with as the NFL writer talks about notable cuts. And let's get right into the article here. And what he mentions, among other people, when he talks about often focusing on players signing in new spots, but some of the most impactful moves each year are the cuts teams make in pursuit of coveted cap space. In anticipation, here's a handful of the biggest names on the cut watch list in the NFC, right? This comes with all the salary cap and contract numbers. At the top of the list, he has Kirk Cousins, and we know this is something that they're going to do, right? Reportedly, they restructured the deal that unties the hands of both parties, and, you know, with Cousins. And then, of course, you got the Michael Penix thing, and Atlanta has some work to do, picking up Stefanski to fix up that situation. And number two on the list, he got Alvin Kamara here. Arguably the offensive face of the franchise since Drew Brees retired, Kamara may have reached the end of his tenure in New Orleans. The 30-year-old running back in easily the least productive season of his career last year, totaling career lows in rushing yards, receiving yards, scrimmage touchdowns, and yards per touch. He also posted career lows in explosive run rate and missed tackle rate. According to Next Gen Stats, the Saints likely haven't found their future at the position yet. Audric Estime, Kendre Miller, nor Devin Neal really fit the bill. But the cap hit of 18.6 mil. Their vision probably shouldn't involve Kamara. Cutting him before June 1st only frees up $360,000 with a $18.2 million hit in dead money. So he's an excellent candidate for a post-June 1st designation when the cap savings rocket up to $8.5 million. But either way, the 2026 should be the first season in nearly a decade without Pro Bowl back in the Bayou. I disagree. And a lot of people say, well, Q, it's time. At some point, we have to move on past Alvin Kamara. And hey, fam, you're right. But he has 1 year remaining. The Saints, roughly right now, according to SportTrack, are just over $6 million in the red. With next year, the Saints will have $156 million in spending money. And what I'm saying is simply, Alvin Kamara numbers were down this year, but this does not speak to what really happened with Alvin this past season. Alvin Kamara was the benefactor of a very poor offensive line. Before guys started to get hurt from an interior standpoint, that offensive line, interiorly speaking, wasn't all that good. Let's just be honest. Left guard was an enigma coming to it. It was the weakest position. We had Trevor Penning occupying the left guard position. The Saints tried him at left and right tackles, left and right guard. And ultimately, he couldn't do any of them. They ultimately ended up trading him for a bag of potato chips to the Chargers. You know, he wasn't a good guard, and he was hurt a lot of times in games last year before they gave him the boot. Then there was Dylan Raduntz, who was a guy the Saints picked up to compete for the left guard position. He did well later on in the year, but you see Dylan Raduntz is not a starting level offensive lineman. He's a backup guy. You know, they tried him at left tackle. He looked horrible there. At left guard, he's not as flexible as you would want him to be. And he did serviceably well for the Saints getting back to the later portion of the year, but not deserving of coming back. No doubt about it. We can find better offensive linemen than Dylan Raduntz. And then the center position, we talked about guys in terms of Eric McCoy, who's missed 24 games or 20 plus games in the last 4 years. That's ridiculous. We can't count on McCoy the last couple of years. His body's breaking down. We have to take notice of that and make the appropriate action to either draft the guy to learn while he's there, or to sign or re-sign rather Luke Fortner if he's not priced out of our reach. You see? And then, of course, the right guard position is, what could you say about Cesar Ruiz? Inconsistent, poor technique, injuries also factored in as well. And he's not getting any better. He's already hit his ceiling. And I don't ever think Cesar Ruiz will get any better than what he is currently. So we had issues. Now, the tackle tandem of Kelvin Banks Jr. and Tali Fuaga is excellent. Those are two bookends. But internally, the Saints need help there. And that is one of the main reasons why Alvin's numbers were down. Now, you'll never hear him say that. You won't ever hear him say that. But I'm telling you, if you watch the film, the Saints wasn't opening up holes like that for Alvin Kamara. There wasn't. Remember him when he had that 70-something, that rough 20-plus carry, 75-something odd rushing game where he really got banged up in that game? This man would run hardcore into holes that these lines set, and the holes were closed. Guys wouldn't sliding off, shedding off defenders and going to the second level to catch the linebackers. They wasn't climbing. Cesar Ruiz, Dylan Raduntz, and these guys, and Trevor Penning, these guys were late getting to the second level to block out linebackers. You block and then slide off your defender and get to the second level, get the next guy, because the running back has to follow you through that lane. The Saints were often slow on that early on. And like I said, Alvin wasn't the benefactor of a good offensive line and a good running attack for at least the last couple of years, which would indicate why he's not getting the numbers. And I promise you, if the Saints could recommit, like commit, not but commit resources to improve the interior offensive line, you will see better in run totals from Alvin Kamara in his final year. So the reality, what I'm saying is, the Saints are not going to start with Alvin Kamara in terms of finding money. There are several places where you can go, starting with Chase Young's, Carl Granderson's contract, Juwan Johnson's. You can rework and find money there, right? The Derek Carr trade could net you not only draft capital, but help you out in terms of the dead money, getting that off your books for this year and into next year. So there are different places that the Saints could start besides Alvin Kamara. Me personally, I would not touch the Alvin Kamara agreement. I will allow it to simply function as is. And the Saints will go and touch multiple other contracts to find money. Case in point, the Chris Olave contract extension. He's planning on a $15.5 million option for this year. When the Saints get a long-term option or a deal done with Chris Olave, that will shed at least $10 million off the current books. So like I said, there'll be restructuring done, but it should not be with Alvin Kamara and what's going on. And like I said, the Saints have dead money, a phantom money all over the place, but Alvin Kamara should be safe. We heard Mickey Loomis approach this subject last year. You asked Alvin, where did he want to go? Just walk up to him. Alvin told the story in the locker room that Mickey Loomis just walks up to him and just asks him, hey, any place you want to go? And he's thinking, he was like puzzled by that. And he told him he recommitted himself and said, I want to be a Saint for life. You heard Cam say that. You heard Alvin say that. And these are all-time greats. So we don't treat these guys like they some third or fourth style running back. You know what I'm saying? So every now and again, you're fortunate to get players that come and get attached to you that perform at a high level. And as a result, you don't want to give them the door because you need $8.5 million. It ain't like Alvin or DeMario or Cam Jordan, for that matter, aren't functioning at a high level. Now, if they weren't functioning at a high level, then you'd be justified in your thinking. But and listen, we know Alvin, these are not Alvin's numbers. The last couple of years he's been banged up, but it's not all because of his conditioning. He's really been getting hammered on that line, not being able to run. And I'm telling y'all, and y'all know it like I know it, you can check the statistics and see how poor the Saints rushing attack was. And that was behind an offensive line. With the money we get this year and all that draft capital, the Saints really need to set themselves up for success coming up. We know what we're dealing with Tyler Shuck. You got to wrap the offense around them like they did. We have to be able to invest in a left guard position, whether that's a high draft pick, a second round pick, a third pick, whatever the case, or a guy in free agency, or both. You have enough resources to do both. You can get a top-notch guard in the draft. In the free agency period, you can turn around, re-sign Luke Fortner to act as a good center behind McCoy in case he gets hurt. The right guard position, you can get another free agent to come in, or an offensive lineman high in the draft, maybe in the second or third round, that can push Cesar Ruiz for that right guard position. Create, and I keep saying it, create competition at Cesar's spot. Don't let him walk in and say, yeah, this is Cesar Ruiz's spot. No, we're going to open up the right guard position for competition and make Cesar Ruiz earn the position, right? That's what we want to do. All right. So that's my take on that, man, about the Alvin Kamara situation. And I just don't see $8.5 million. The Saints are just 6 in the red, according to Sport Track. Down, I don't see it as an issue where we need to get rid of or release Alvin Kamara. A cap casualty. That's just crazy. But anyway, let's look at this article too, because they covered it here as well, about potential cutting of Alvin Kamara as the guy. Let's take a look at it here. In the article, Matt Okada pinpointed Alvin Kamara as a possible cut candidate for the Saints. The running back is entering age 31 season, and he missed notable time last year due to injury. With potential cap savings with the move, depending on how it's executed, the Saints have to think about a new beginning at the running back position. And again, that's true. But you can still do both. The Saints, listen, there are a lot of options. Once the Saints start reworking contracts and restructuring contracts, like we talked about before, they could free up north of $25 million in cap money. They really could. Then next year, they'll have a boatload of cap money to be able to kind of hedge this thing. But there are things the Saints could do now when they hit free agency. There are some really good backs that'll be available in free agency where we can get, whether it's guys like ETN or whether it's guys like Tyler Algieri, whomever. They have. This is a pretty good veteran running back group that's available in free agency. And in the draft, there is, well, outside of Jeremiah Love, there are still some good running backs. We talk about this all the time on the mock drafts that we do on Patreon. Y'all, if y'all want to see some of that content, go to patreon.com/the Pro Media Network and sign up. And it's in the link in the description section below, or simply become a member of our YouTube channel to gain access to all of our lock content. We're talking about over 4+5 years of lock. I mean, that's dozens of shows that's available. Anyway, shameless plug, but we be about that work. During those specials, we talk about the impact that a lot of the running backs, there's not a clear number two to Jeremiah Love in this draft. Now, there's his partner that he was with. If that guy was somewhere else, he'll have some real good numbers. But there are other running backs that's available, like Keontae Allen and others that you can get later on in the draft, right? They're not franchise backs like a Jeremiah Love is, but the Saints could roughly go into free agency, solve a lot of its needs, and just simply use the draft as a place where we just pick the best player. And if you do that, that eliminates the reaching. You can be able to have really good talent. And the Saints have benefit of both free agency and the draft to do that. They're high enough in the draft to get a stud, whether it's an offensive one or a defensive one. They have a game changer. They're at the 8th spot. That is a spot where you can find or land one of the top 10 best players in the draft. You can't go wrong with Jeremiah Love. You can't go wrong with Carnell Tate. You can't go wrong with Jordan Tyson. You can't go wrong with Ruben Bain if he's there. There's, you can't go wrong, with Downs, with Caleb Downs. You can't go wrong with none of those guys if you're the Saints. It just simply depends on your board. Now, the Saints will, with the potential savings with the move, depending on how it's executed, the Saints have to think about a new beginning at the running back position. They don't have to think about that. I ain't gonna say do it next year, but they can do it this year and have their cake and eat it too. Is what I'm saying. You're in a position where you can have your cake and eat it too, right? The Saints likely haven't found their future at the position yet. Audric Estime, Kendre Miller, nor Devin Neal fit the bill, but with the cap hit of $18.6 million, their vision probably shouldn't involve Alvin. Shouldn't involve. The cutting him before June 1st frees up I talked about this 360 when the cap savings rocket up to 8.5 currently, and when things become official. But according to Sport Track, they're showing the Saints roughly $6 million in the red, right? Over the cap, not Sport Track, over the cap. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can pull that up. Let me get some receiptage for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. Because over the cap is a very reliable resource for us to use, and we use it well. So take a look. Take a look. It's in the book. Just over $6 million in the red. Now, we haven't seen this type of cap situation in a very long time, haven't we? And then, of course, look, it's like Christmas. This is 2026 numbers, just 6 million in a red, and look what 27 look like. Look what you guys are dealing with in 27. That'll be Tyler Shuck's third year, $150+ million of cap for the Saints in 27, and this is not counting when the NFL's numbers would change for that particular season. It could be more than that. And of course, it depends on what the Saints do this year if they don't have to go crazy. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, is that they're in a great space this year, but even better space next year. The Saints can have their cake and eat it too. If they want to expedite the time frame in terms of winning now, they can simply rejuvenate Alvin Kamara simply by investing in the offensive line and getting that correct. Once you get that correct, you will see Alvin Kamara perhaps. I don't know if he makes 1,000 yards. He's never done that before. Like, he got very close in what was that, last year? He got very close and then couldn't get in the game. To get over the hump, he got hurt. But this is the final year for him to do it, and you can see him. He'll be 100% healthy. The Saints tool up on that offensive line, man. We could do some great stuff in the running attack. But anyway, New Orleans does not have a ton of candidates for post-June 1st cuts. Teams are limited to 2 per season due to their finagling and restructuring of veteran deals in recent years. That will help them in choosing as one of these for the yard deal. Now, of course, we know Derek Carr is still on the kind. The reason I bring up Derek Carr now is because if you trade him post-June 1st cut, the dead cap hits differently. Like you get 19 million of his dead cap money this year and 40 plus in 2027, right? We covered this on the Derek Carr show, and we talked about the impact of him having to give $30 million back to the Saints too, of restructured money because he couldn't fulfill his obligations with the team. That cost him a lot of money not coming back. But thank you for not coming back. But nonetheless, this is what they're talking about. His sticking point is the fact that the cut candidates, and if you have to utilize that money. So New Orleans does not have a ton of candidates. Teams are limited to 2 per offseason due to the finagling and restructuring of veteran deals in recent years. That would help them in choosing Kamara as one for the ordeal. So is this something they do? Now, replacing Alvin Kamara in the 2026 NFL draft, right? It would be fascinating to see how early the Saints attack running back during this year's draft if Kamara is no longer in the fold. Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love is a sure first round selection, could easily go inside the top 10. With that, plenty of mock drafts have included him as the Saints' first pick at the 9th overall. I'm not mad at that because I've done several drafts which have Jeremiah Love at the that I picked personally because the wide receiver position, there's not like a bona fide number one wide receiver. I mean, you got Tate there, and Tate's a technician, but he doesn't have the 40 time that you want. He's not a superstar like a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson. This draft doesn't have that. They have solid technicians that's available. They lack star power in terms of the wide receiver position. So that's why I'm not taking Jordan Tyson. I'm not taking Tate with that pick. If I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Jeremiah Love at number 8, when this is a guy that can go easily in the top 5, and he's sitting there, man, I'm taking Jeremiah Love. I'm taking him and I'm pairing him with Shuck. Why? Because what'll happen is, hell, that's your Bijan Robinson. You get a phenomenal running back that can block, that can catch, that can run outside in between the tackles. The guy is going to be a bona fide star for you in that running attack. And plus you pair him and Tyler Shuck together. Shuck is not only is he throwing the ball from the pocket, but he takes off so fast, his rushing yardage will add on top of what Jeremiah Love gets, and then you'll have what I would call the Lamar Jackson effect. Like you'll have his rushing stats added to whatever the running back room is doing, and that usually boosts your totals to high levels. So you can end up being a top 5 rushing team in the NFL and a dual threat squad that people have to prepare with, and more nightmares, matchup issues. Taysom Hill is a nightmare. Alvin, you want to get nightmares, like mismatched nightmares, a matchup nightmares for your defense to prepare for. Imagine them having to prepare for Jeremiah Love and Tyler Shuck's athletic ability. That's scary stuff for defensive coordinators to deal with. Now there are guys. I gave my top 50 board on my Patreon show. But the reality at the end of the day is that you always want to find the matchup nightmares that really cause problems for your ops. And having a Love and a Shuck combination, to me, is like the future. You get Chris Olave, you have Tyler Shuck there, you have Jeremiah Love there. Then in free agency, perhaps you get you a wide receiver, because really the Saints don't have to try to go and get a wide receiver in the draft. They can get one out of free agency, and they can still get one in the draft, but not as high. You see what I'm saying? They still have some stuff that they can do. But anyway, that was a long spiel just to get to this point, because I see it in a different light, right? So anyway, Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love is a surefire first selection. In a draft that lacks a premium position, drafting best players available is the approach most NFL teams should focus on in April's draft. Without baking in positional value, Jeremiah Love is one of the premier players in his class. In a lot of ways, his game is funny enough, very similar to Alvin Kamara. The difference is that Love possesses the long speed to turn a single into a double into a triple, and a triple to the home run. Yes, this is true. The guy is phenomenal. I also looked at day 2 of the draft for players like Notre Dame's Jadarian Price. Some say that he's the best player in the draft. I watched tape on Jadarian Price. I just told you guys that the second best running back in this draft, I would say, is Jadarian Price, who just happens to be a teammate of Jeremiah Love. And if Price was at a different school, I wouldn't say he would be better, but it would definitely be make a case for him having over 1,000 yards. This man easily could have had 12, 13, 1,400 yards this year, easily. But Jadarian Price is a good running back. He's not Jeremiah Love, though. Neither is Jonah Coleman. I like Jonah Coleman. Emmett Johnson from Nebraska is also an interesting prospect, but those guys go later on in the draft. You're talking about rounds 2, 3, 4. That'll have runs on running backs. The reality is the Saints won't be able to completely replace Alvin Kamara immediately, production-wise, potentially. That said, he's been a fan favorite for nearly a decade. He's one of the cornerstone leaders of the locker room on offense that loves New Orleans like it's his true home, because it is his true home. There's a reason that the former Pro Bowl running back said he would choose to retire last year rather than suit up for another team. The NFL encouraged tough choices, though, and it sounds like a legitimate reality. The Saints move on from their longtime starter this offseason. Only time will tell. I do not agree with this. I think AK-41, there is another path. Let's just put it to you like that. There's another path for Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is just not another back we're going to give up. You have to be able to invest in your offensive line. And Alvin Kamara, along with Kendre Miller and Devin Neal, that tandem could still, and Audric Esme, let's not forget him because he deserves a contract. Well, he's on the team already, but he deserves some look too. You have to be able to fix the offensive line issues before they talk about putting Jadarian Price or Jeremiah Love or any of these backs, or even Alvin Kamara, behind that rickety interior offensive line of the Saints. The tackles are cool. McCoy is one of the best when he's healthy, but the last couple of years, I don't think Eric McCoy was 100% totally healthy. They might have told us that, but the last couple of years, watching him be on the grass like he a landscaper, plant flowers and shit. I've never seen Eric McCoy on the ground as much as I've seen him the last couple of years. I thought he was having innate conversations with nature. He's always on the damn ground. People are pushing him around, and I'm like, this can't be right. Something's wrong with Eric McCoy. He's not totally healthy. But as such, that's why you need to really kind of focus and getting the left guard, right guard stuff straight, and the backup center in case McCoy gets hurt again. He did it the last couple of years. He missed 20-something odd goddamn games over the last 3-4 years. We can't wait on that. If we're trying to make a run, we need guys to be here in physical form and not just in spirit. You get me? So just like we watched what happened to Ramczyk, is this similar? Not the same injury, but you can see the breakdown is what I'm talking about with McCoy. And that, my friends, is what we need to be focused on. So in this scenario, I would say that the Saints can have their cake and eat it too. They don't have to get rid of Alvin Kamara. They don't have to cut AK-41. They really don't. The Saints could ultimately draft a running back or sign one in free agency. They have options. Me personally, whatever the big moves are, if you're the New Orleans Saints, I would sign, I would open my cap without touching Kamara's contract. I would restructure several players' contracts. And then what I would do after that simply is get my left guard, sign a right guard to compete with the likes of Cesar Ruiz, right? I would ultimately see about if I could get me a vet wide receiver that at the right price, I would get him. I will see if I can add some more help in the secondary. I would bring James Burnip back or some more people to compete with Kai Kroger, because Burnip should have been the guy last year. I don't think Kroger started off good but fell apart. Bring James Burnip back to kick against him. And there's other spots that you want to touch. We talked about the wide receiver position. Ultimately, the Saints perhaps will go after a veteran signal passer as a backup quarterback option for the Saints. And there are other things to kind of look at as well. All this kind of stuff. Re-signing Cam, re-signing DeMario Davis, seeing what Alontae Taylor does, because that's the biggest sticking point to me. What does Alontae do? If we've seen an article where the Rams are looking at him, he's going to be a sought after defensive back. Some people have him as the second best cornerback in free agency. Some have him as the third, depending on how your system is. If you want a physical cornerback that doesn't get a lot of interceptions, that's smart, that can operate in that role, he might be the guy. But a lot of people think that he could be priced out of our hands. We shall see. Even Luke Fortner is a guy that could be priced out of our hands, depending on it. There's rumors that Carolina's looking at Luke Fortner. He might be priced out of our hands. So that's depending on where number one what Alontae Taylor does will kind of tell us, where we need to go in free agency and then perhaps the draft. So why not have your cake and eat it too, right? Anyway, with that being said, man, listen, that's all I got. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Put in the comments section below and let me know how do you feel about Alvin Kamara on the NFL.com's cutting list. What do you think? Do you think it's a valid discussion to be made? Do you think we can have our cake and eat it too? Hell, we can draft the running back and bring him in here and have Alvin Kamara to mentor him. He's in the final year of his agreement, both him and Kendre Miller. So we got 1 and 2 on our depth charts are in their final years, right? Why can't we have the cake and eat it too, right? This is one of the rare situations where you can have cake and eat it too. Well, if you want a cake, why wouldn't you not eat the cake? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's all I got. Y'all tell me what you got. Put in the comment section below. Let me know. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, the share button, the notification bells, light them all up. Big Q representing the mighty Who Dat Nation. Shout out to our sponsor, FanDuel, the official sponsor of the show. Y'all get y'all bets at FanDuel. And with that being said, I'm out. I'm going to holler at you on the next one. Much love. Peace. And Who Dat Nation.
Hey, New Orleans! Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with the WhoDatDaily.com, your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit the WhoDatDaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation.
Welcome to the Pro Shop, where we create authentic NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping the Pro Shop, the Pel Shop, or the Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below or in the chat.